In less than 4 months, Filipinos will choose the next leaders of the country. And the stakes are high as the nation awaits directions in navigating through this overwhelming health crisis, among others.
This election is really very different from the other elections. This is whole survival na ito natin lahat ang naka-stake dito. We cannot have another 6 years of this kind of COVID response.
They will pitch their cause.
Dapat may kagat ang hustisya. Dapat may ngipin ang batas.
And why they deserve your vote.
Hurt and pain is collective for all. At siguro nararamdaman ko yon bilang a product of the biggest tragedy of this history natin sa Marawi siege.
Find out their plan of action for change. And as they chart the country's future, their political future is in your hands. Who are qualified? Who are worthy to serve in the 19th Congress? Watch them side by side here on CNN Philippines. I'm Ruth Cabal. Welcome to the CNN Philippines Senatorial Forum, where we get to know some of our aspirants and ask them questions on issues that matter to most Filipinos. This is the third of the series of forums CNN Philippines is hosting in the run-up to the elections on May 9th. Tonight, we are joined by 3 human rights defenders trying to secure a Senate seat for another time. We will introduce them to you in alphabetical order. The 62-year-old senatorial aspirant is running under the political party Makabayang Koalisyon ng Mamamayan. He finished his Bachelor of Laws in UP Diliman. He served as Bayan Muna Party List representative during the 16th Congress. He authored the Anti-Torture Act of 2009 and Free Mobile Disaster Alerts Act, among others. Welcome, former Congressman Neri Colmenares.
Good evening po. Good evening.
The 60-year-old senatorial aspirant is running under the political party Katipunan ng Nagkakaisang Pilipino. He is a magna cum laude graduate of Northern Illinois University in the U.S. with a degree in Juris Doctor of Laws. He is currently the chairperson of Free Legal Assistance Group and provides legal missions, paralegal training, and free legal consultations for people in need. Welcome, human rights lawyer Chel Diokno.
Magandang gabi, Ruth, at sa lahat ng nanonood.
And this 47-year-old senatorial aspirant is running under the political party Aksyon Demokratiko. She finished her Bachelor of Laws in Arellano University. She is an assemblywoman in the ARMM. She established Ranao Rescue Team and founded Asian Peace Alliance. Welcome, Civic Leader Samira Gutoc.
Good evening. Assalamualaikum. Ruth.
And to make sure that everyone is safe from COVID-19, they are joining us via Zoom. I would like to remind everyone that this is not a debate. This is about letting voters understand your platforms, principles, and stand on issues. We have compiled questions. Each of you will be given a time limit for each answer. When you hear the sound, that means you only have 10 seconds left and you need to wrap up your answer. We are live on free-to-air TV and on cable, as well as on Facebook at CNN Philippines. Join the conversation online using hashtag CNNPH Senatorial Forum. Let's begin. Corruption has plagued the government for so long, hindering economic progress. When President Duterte came into power in 2016, he vowed to stop corruption in 6 months. But as he leaves Malacanang in a few months, the country sinks to a historic low in the Global Corruption Index. Based on Transparency International, we ranked 117th out of 180 countries and scored a disappointing mark of 33 out of 100. The organization said the sharp decline in freedom of expression made it hard for citizens to speak up against corruption. It was also during the Duterte administration when public access to what's believed to be a powerful tool against corruption, the SALN, or Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth, was restricted. Ombudsman Samuel Martires said it was being weaponized and used for political ends. So our question, Are you in favor of releasing SALNs of government officials to the public? Let's start with Congressman Colmenares. You have 90 seconds to answer this question. Your time starts now.
Well, definitely. Thank you, Ruth. Definitely, we are in favor of making public the SALN of public officials. In fact, we have been doing that. I have been doing that since I was in Congress because I don't see any reason why any public official will hide his or her SALN. If you are rich, then you are rich. If you are poor, there's nothing to be ashamed if you're poor. So I don't see any reason. The SALN is an anti-corruption mechanism. And it's really distressing that the President doesn't even set a good example, a good model to all the public officials. I mean, an ordinary municipal clerk, an ordinary government employee submits their SALN, but the President of the Republic doesn't want to make it public. So the law, in fact, requires that the SALN submitted by public officials must be accessible to the public, not only the Constitution. So for me, really, it's a no-brainer dapat na any public official, if you really want to run and if you want to serve the Filipino people, then you should agree to the requirement that you must submit your SALN, and not only that, make it accessible to the public. Because I see no really good reason at all why you don't want the public to know what your total wealth is. In case it grows up, then of course there's an ill-gotten wealth somewhere there. So I agree, SALN must be made public for all public officials.
Let's now go to Attorney Diokno, yung binanggit na ni Congressman Neri, no, na it should be disclosed to the public in a manner that's mandated by law. Tsaka sabi rin kasi, di ba, Attorney, alam niyo to, na the public has the right to know, pero ang observation ng iba, tila mahirap daw ma-access ngayon ang SALN. So kayo po ba, pabor na isa publiko ang inyong SALN? Your time starts now.
Absolutely. The law is clear and no one should be above the law. The public has a right to know. At it's so unfair that ordinary government officials have to make public their SALN, and yet yung mga matataas na opisyal ay exempted. Dapat walang exemption. Dapat malagyan pa natin ng ngipin ang batas ng SALN at palakasin natin yung karapatan ng ordinaryong mamamayan na ma-access ang SALN ng lahat. I believe we should even put stiff penalties on government officials who refuse or block to the access of SALN by the ordinary Filipino. Kailangan din natin lagyan ng kagat ang hustisya pagdating sa mga anti-graft and corruption laws natin dahil medyo mababa ang kanilang mga penalty. I fully support the release of all SALNs because that is how we gauge whether a public official is engaging in ill-gotten wealth or not. Doon po natin makikita kung bigla na lang lumolobo yung kanyang assets and the net worth. Dapat ipaliwanag niya sa taong bayan kung saan na nanggaling yung perang yan. At baka naman pera ng bayan na yung doon nanggagaling yung at napupunta sa kanyang bulsa. So I really believe that this weapon to make sure we have a clean government is utilized in the way that it was intended by the Constitution and by our law, Republic Act 6713.
Thank you, Attorney Diokno. Let's now go to Samira Gutoc. Are you in favor of releasing your SALN to the public? You have 90 seconds.
Thank you, Ruth. Where I'm coming from in the Bangsamoro, it is a very sensitive, tense issue. And siguro, I'll be very unpopular here when I say that, yes, I'm open to urging all my co-Bangsamoro, Filipinos here in the provinces, especially with due respect sa mga dynasties, na ipakita nila, ipubliko nila, ipublicize nila ang ating mga SALN. Pero kasi po ang ating SALN ay instrumento. Instrumento po siya on how to track from where the point of entry into your public service upon also your departure kung meron pong increase ng wealth yung paglabas no sa ating government service. And following the doctrine of public office as a public trust, I put it to heart po, Ma'am Ruth, in the ARMM. When I was there, the Transparency and Governance Advocacy tag, which also in this current Bangsamoro government, they call it the Khalifa or Good Governance na kanilang pinupush, ay pinapakita rin natin talaga po, Ma'am Ruth, that it is a must, whether it be you're from the Katutubo, from the Bangsamoro government, from the national, kung hiningi nga sa mga immigration officers or customs, may lifestyle check at itong ating pagbabantay sa pag-increase ng wealth, itong SALN nga instrumentality by which we can gauge. And therefore, I am in favor of this. It is an instrument by which there can be a culture of shame in seeing that we are able to avoid the extravagance that comes with usual
Okay.
public officers na hindi nahihiya lumaki ang kanilang kayamanan sa
Okay po.
napakasimpleng buhay dapat.
Yes.
na
Thank you very
meron
much.
isang public officer.
All three aspirants are in favor of releasing their SALNs to the public. So social media was abuzz about a proposal that will mandate Filipinos turning 18 to undergo military service, a similar policy in countries like Israel, South Korea, and Singapore. Based on that proposal, enlisted citizens will serve in the armed forces of the Philippines and will be given subsidy. The idea received mixed reactions. While some say it will build a strong military force, others suggest that the government should prioritize improving the country's education and health systems instead. Here's your question. Are you in favor of the mandatory enlistment, military enlistment? You have 90 seconds to answer. We start with you, Samira.
We've been around the country in 30 sorties, or we call it the listening tours. And one of the comments on this proposal is that, for instance, from the Muslim Filipinos, that will be a bit of insensitive to our women who have certain limitations in physicality of movement and even publicly mixing with our men. Of course, we are Filipinos and we understand the need for security, participation. This was a thing that I pushed: disaster risk awareness, public safety training, even from the household. Nakita po natin sa COVID, sa typhoons, which I bring to the fourth po, yung ating disaster preparedness. We need to be aware, prepared, ready, even as children, even as youth. Mas lalo pang youth, because we have the energy na tayo po yung nagdadala, nagtutulong sa ating household. So yes, I am very critical. I'm not as supportive of a mandatory military training. Let us support disaster risk preparedness awareness in our schools as part of our curriculum.
Thank you, Samira. We now go to Representative Colmenares. So the question is, what are your thoughts on compulsory military service? Do you agree with this or not? You have 90 seconds.
I disagree with that completely, Ruth. No? In fact, I saw the proposals in Congress before, even just for ROTC, even high school ROTC, and we're saying, is this what the students need? The students doesn't need military training, especially if the teachings for the youth is for repression, as we experienced from previous this administration. So I disagree with that. How much more an enlistment? How these people need jobs. They don't, you get enlisted mandatorily. Disagree talaga ako dyan. Kasi ang pag-serve mo sa pagiging sundalo, o kung gusto mong itaya ka doon sa kung sinong gigirahin ng ang presidente, choice mo dapat yun. Hindi ka naman dapat pipilitin kahit hindi ka nag-agree sa gyerang yan, kahit hindi ka nag-agree na tama ang gyerang yan, nandun ka. Papatay ka ng kapwa mong tao. So really, I disagree with that. In fact, ang solusyon dapat dito sa atin, kailangan kasi ng ating mga manggagawa ng trabaho. Kailangan ng ating mga manggagawa at magsasaka ng hanap buhay. Hindi pwedeng i-enlist mo sila mandatorily. Paano na lang yung pamilya nila? Sino magpapakain nun? Saan maghahanap ng mapagkunan? So I disagree with that military enlistment, whether it's ROTC for the high school or ROTC for college. Definitely hindi dun sa military enlistment mismo sa AFP.
Let's now go to Attorney Diokno. Are you in favor of compulsory military enlistment? Your 90 seconds start now.
I'm totally against the mandatory military enlistment. And I think you're right. The real problem that we should be addressing is the education crisis that we have. Our students are lagging behind in all the basic subjects, reading, math, and science. And we also have to infuse love of country and really the values that we all cherish as Filipinos into the basic curriculum while our students are still young. Hindi na po natin kailangan ng mandatory military enlistment. If we look at our history, nagamit na yan ng diktadoryang Marcos noon. It was weaponized by that regime to put people in line and to stifle criticism. And the recent proposals to bring back ROTC as mandatory, hindi na ba tayo nadala doon sa mga nangyari noon na mga hazing, mga corruption? this is not going to be good for our country. There are other ways to infuse love of country. In fact, our youth have already shown how much they love our country in this pandemic. Sila yung nangunguna sa maraming mga proyektong tumutulong sa ating mga nangangailangan. I don't think they need this. In fact, it's the last thing they need.
Thank you very much to our aspirants. They're all not in favor of mandatory military enlistment and would rather that the government focus on programs such as disaster preparedness, employment, and education. We will be taking a short break, but before that, here is your question answerable by yes or no. You don't need to provide an explanation. You just need to raise the green signboard if your answer is yes, or the red one if your answer is no. Over a span of 5 decades, the Communist Party of the Philippines, or CPP, and its armed wing New People's Army have been waging Asia's longest-running insurgency. At the start of his presidency, President Duterte brought hope to end the conflict and offered government posts to the CPP. But just more than a year in office, he formally terminated the peace talks. In an unprecedented move, the president also declared the CPP-NPA a terrorist organization. Here is your question. Do you favor resuming peace talks with communist rebels? Please raise your signboards. Okay, so we have 2 yes, and Samira, I can't see, hindi ko masyado makita yung, so is that a yes or a no? Okay, that's a yes. Okay, all our aspirants are in favor of resuming peace talks with the CPP-NPA. This is a CNN Philippines special presentation. We'll get to know more about our senatorial aspirants after the break. Welcome back to a CNN Philippines special presentation. I'm Ruth Cabal. This is the third in a series of senatorial forums as we count down the months and days leading to the May 9th general election. Joining us are 3 human rights defenders trying to secure a Senate seat again. Former party list Representative Neri Colmenares, human rights lawyer Chel Diokno, and civic leader Samira Gutoc. They will respond to questions on issues that matter most to Filipinos. We are not having a debate today. This forum will allow the public to know more about our senatorial aspirants and their stand on issues. To our audience, feel free to join the conversation online using the hashtag CNNPH Senatorial Forum. The Philippines has one of the most expensive electricity rates in Asia, according to a 2018 study by Australian think tank International Energy Consultants. The country's average electricity price is second highest in the Asia-Pacific region. And amid this pandemic, it's needed most for online classes and work, as well as storage of COVID-19 vaccines. Right now, just in Metro Manila, power rates are still going up. Your question, our aspirants, what can you do to make electricity rates cheaper? We will be giving 90 seconds to answer. Attorney Diokno, let's start with you.
First, let's discuss why electricity rates are so high in our country. Kasi ang nangyayari, palaging dehado ang consumer pagdating sa mga kontrata ng supply and distribution of power at kahit pagdating sa regulatory enforcement ng ating pamahalaan. It seems that really the provision of electricity is seen as more of a profit-oriented business rather than something that must serve our people. There's also the issue of so much control over all the different generation, distribution, and transmission of electricity in our country. How do we bring electricity rates down? We must democratize the production of electricity. We should encourage our consumers to using renewable energy to produce their own electricity and to sell it back to the grid. That way, bababa talaga yung kanilang electricity bills. We should remove politics from our electric cooperatives and allow them as well to be producers of electricity, particularly renewable energy, which they can give to those in their areas of franchise. We must as well eradicate the regulatory capture that appears to be happening when it comes to electricity. Kasi ang nangyayari, palaging nagiging dehado ang mga consumers natin, ang mga ordinaryong Pilipino, dapat sila ay maging llamado.
We now go to Samira. Ano po ba ang pwede niyong ipanukala para mas gawing mura itong singgil sa kuryente? You have 90 seconds.
Coming from Lake Lanao, the hydroelectric power producer, source of 6 or 7 hydroelectric power plants. I know that there's much needed rehabilitation for activating 2 or 3 na hindi pa na-activate. So kailangan po i-activate po yung natutulog na hydroelectric power plant so that there is more access to electric power generating. Tapos dagdagan po yung competition. There needs to be more sources of energy and of course renewable etc. So kailangan po ay siguro yung electric cooperatives should be part of this stakeholders forum that we are pushing, each one part of a discussion by which dapat contributory na rin sila sa diskusyon on how to make efficient the distribution of electric power. Alam ko po na collection of payments is also a challenge, and that's why rates can't also be as madalian na magawang cheap kasi nga yung collection is a major issue. And therefore, we need to incentivize, we need to create opportunities for electric power generators or producers so that they can be able to efficiently produce and give competition in an enabling environment so that sana po mag-cheapen na yung rates.
Thank you, Samira. We now go to Representative Colmenares. Same question. What can you do to make electricity rates cheaper?
Well, nalala ko ng 2013, nag-shutdown si Malampaya, nag-shutdown din ang maraming mga power plants. Kaya bumaba daw ang supply ng kuryente, tumaas ang presyo ng kuryente. One of the highest electricity rate increases sa kasaysayan natin yon, halos 9 pesos per kilowatt hour. Nagsampa po ako ng kaso sa Korte Suprema. Ang mabuti na lang po at naipanalo natin yon sa pamamagitan ng TRO ng Korte Suprema na hindi napatupad-tupad hanggang ngayon yung rate increase na yon. At mas shock talaga tayo sa bill pag sakaling matalo tayo dun sa kasong yon. Ngayon, ang isang problema doon, banggit supply and demand, ang regulation mismo. Naniniwala ako na ang regulators masyadong kampi sa regulated. Dapat kampi ka sa mamamayan, kampi ka doon sa taong bayan kaysa sa nire-regulate mo. Kaya ayusin ang regulation. Isang gagawin ko yan sa Senado, huwag makaupo ako, talagang higpitan ang regulasyon sa mga ganitong mga klaseng industriya. Pangatlo, disagree talaga kami sa IPIRA. Kasi tingin namin, itong ating mga industriya like public utilities, tubig, kuryente, transportasyon, komunikasyon, napakahalaga ito sa mamamayan. Dapat hindi ito privatized. Yan ang panindigan namin noon pa man. Kasi pag privatized yan, profit of course is the main motive, public service is just an afterthought. So sa akin, yun ang mga laban dyan, ang pag-repeal ng IPIRA, ang pag-regulate ng mahigpit doon sa mga power players.
Thank you to our aspirants. We move on to our next question. All three of you are known critics of President Duterte, but can you think of an achievement or something good that this administration has done? Are there programs and policies you wish to continue or improve? Balikan natin si Congressman Colmenares. You had several statements against President Duterte. You deplored the administration's treatment of political activists. You also opposed the return of the Marcoses and the Dutertes in Malacanang this 2022. Pero sa tingin niyo po ba, may nagawang mabuti ang administrasyong ito? 90 seconds, sir.
Salamat po. Ako naman kung tama ang presidente, di tama. Maraming salamat. Pag mali siya, hindi naman ako mangingiming birahin siya, kahit presidente pa siya. Yun kasi ang kailangan sa isang public official, sa Senado o sa House of Representatives. Checks and balance kami. Kaya yung sinabi ni President Duterte halimbawa, nag-file ako ng bill na 2,000 dagdag sa SSS pension. Abay, pumasa sa House, pumasa sa Senado. Ngayon, binigay niyang 1,000 piso. Salamat. Dapat ituloy yung ganong mga tipo ng gawain para naman para sa ating mga pensioners. Kaya lang, ang pangalawang tranche hindi pa niya naibigay. Kaya I'll take this opportunity na manawagan kay President Duterte. Pinangako mong ibigay yung 2,000 pisong dagdag sa SSS pension, ibigay mo na. So very important naman sa akin na masabi na yung mga ganong tipong ginagawa ng presidente, pwedeng ipagpatuloy. Pero nangako siyang tanggalin ang kontraktorisasyon, hindi niya tinupad yon. Nangako siyang libreng pamamahagi ng lupa sa magsasaka, hindi niya rin tinupad yon. Yun sana ang mga patakaran na gustong-gusto ng taong bayan. Yan sana ang mga patakaran na ipagpatuloy ng susunod na administrasyon kasi yan ang kailangan ng ating bansa. Hindi yung mga pangako na napapako, kundi yung gagawin at ipapatupad yung mga ganong klaseng patakaran.
Okay, let's go to Attorney Diokno and Samira Gutoc. Pareho po kayo noong 2019. You both ran for senators under the opposition's late Ocho Diretso. Attorney Diokno, during a CNN Philippine senatorial debate, you criticized the government's war on drugs and called it unconstitutional and, quote, violative of due process. You've also denounced alleged mismanagement of the government in handling the COVID-19 crisis. But can you cite something good that the Duterte administration has done? You have 90 seconds.
For our overseas workers, the president just signed a law creating a Department of Migrant Workers. And it's about time that the government really do something to make sure that the concerns and the needs of our overseas workers are met. Kasi sa ngayon, sa mga kakausap ko mga OFW, ang dami nilang reklamo na iba-iba yung mga ahensya. You have the POEA, you have DOLE, you have the DFA. At kung minsan nagtuturuan pa, there is no one-stop shop where our overseas workers can really get the services they need, including legal assistance, health issues, repatriation, and so forth. Itong batas na ito was just signed by the President, and it calls upon the government to centralize these different agencies to put them into one department. And I believe that will be good for our overseas workers. But having said that, I do believe as well that the real long-lasting solution for our economy and for our people is to make sure that Filipinos do not have to go abroad anymore to get jobs. Dapat mapalakas talaga natin yung ating ekonomiya dito para hindi na kailangan lumabas ng bansa dahil ang laki ng social cost din ng pagtatrabaho sa ibang bansa. So while I do welcome that law because it addresses the concerns of OFWs, at the same time, it should just be a stopgap measure. I don't think it should be a law that will last for decades. Dapat maayos natin yung ating ekonomiya para lahat ay magkakaroon ng job opportunities dito sa atin.
Okay, let's now go to Samira. You were appointed by President Duterte, then later resigned as a member of the Bangsamoro Transition Commission. You said you did not approve of the government's handling of the Marawi siege, the declaration of martial law in Mindanao, and the president's jokes about women. Pero may nakita ka po bang magandang nagawa ng Duterte administration? May programa ka bang gustong ituloy? 90 seconds, your time starts now.
3. 1, I'm a commuter. Napaka-importante po yung road systems, road networks. May na-start din, I think, the Mindanao road pathway or railway by which trains connect provinces, at least from the central Mindanao. So yan po sana ay matapos ng next administration because it costs higher to travel from within Mindanao than Manila to Mindanao. Can you imagine? Mas mahal po mag-travel ang mas malalapit kaysa yung nasa Manila tayo. So napaka-expensive and build programming on at least the road networks are important to us as commuters especially at saka yung mga farmers, fisher folks na kailangan magdala ng kanilang mga produkto. As a Bangsamoro, importante po yung pagpasa ng BOL. Siyempre, pagkilala sa mga naunang administrasyon, kagaya ni Pinoy. But under his administration, President signed this and so the Bangsamoro government also pushed for extension of its term so that it's able to pass the necessary infrastructure, logistical requirements and codes para po the next election maprepara yung ating electoral system. So the Bangsamoro government syempre addresses in a way indirectly terrorism because marami pong rebels who have turned into the underground groups at ito ay nakakatulong itong Bangsamoro government because the one PNP and the one army is able to solicit the eligibility of the rebels of the MILF and even the other armed groups. Pangatlo po, of course, is the Marawi siege lastly. Nakikita natin that this is the worst urban destruction of recent in the past half century and we need to look into it. It's a very expensive rehabilitation project. Sana po ma-fast track yung return of the residents
Okay.
per the UN guiding principles on internal displacement. We don't have an IDP's law,
Okay,
and that's what I
Samira.
push as
Yeah,
well.
thank you. Now, before we go on a break, here is a question answerable by yes or no. Since coming to power in 2016, the president waged a brutal crackdown on drug users and dealers. In the 18th Congress, there were around 20 bills filed across the House and the Senate seeking to reimpose capital punishment on drug-related offenses and other heinous crimes. But some lawmakers, various groups, and even the Commission on Human Rights opposed this, insisting everyone's right to life must be respected. Here's the question. Do you favor the reimposition of the death penalty for drug-related crimes? You may raise the green board for yes or red for no. So all our aspirants are not in favor of reinstating the death penalty, at least for drug cases. Join the conversation online by using the hashtag CNNPH Senatorial Forum. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back to the CNN Philippines Senatorial Forum. I'm Ruth Cabal. Joining us tonight are three of our senatorial aspirants: former party list Representative Neri Colmenares, human rights lawyer Chel Diokno, and civic leader Samira Gutoc. They will answer issues that matter to most Filipinos. Right now, we have chosen questions posted by netizens on our social media platforms. Let's look at them. Here's one from Rare_Edu. So ang tanong niya, ano po ba ang programa para resolbahin ang problema sa mataas na bilang ng populasyon? You have 90 seconds each to answer. We start with Samira.
Napaka-importante po, Rare, ang reproductive health education sa ating primary and ating education.
Okay.
In this country, one of the highest teenage pregnancies. At napakalaking bagay po na the responsible parenting starts very early on. Even pati nga anak ko sa bahay, na-educate ko na kahit 6-year-old na siya. Kaya importante po that we as Filipino households ay alam natin how it relates to management ng ating future children, our additional children. Kaya napaka-importante po ang reproductive health dahil it connects our decisions to our family, to our population, to our couplehood. Tayong mag-asawa, meron tayong pinaplano, kasama tayo nagpaplano para sa ating family, no? Ang ating future of our family. So reproductive health is one mechanism and measure to do.
Thank you, Samira. We'll now go to Representative Neri. Same question. No? Sabi ng Population Commission, medyo bumagal ang population growth natin itong nakaraang taon because of the pandemic. But isa tayo sa most populated nation in the world. Almost 110 million na ang ating populasyon. So yung tanong ng netizen, ano po ba ang pwedeng magawa para maresolba itong problema sa population? You have 90 seconds.
Well, I agree with the reproductive health law. In fact, yun ang boto namin doon sa Kongreso. Kaya dapat lang accessible sa mga couple, sa mamamayan, yung mga, kung gusto nila, yung mga nakalagay doon ng mga mechanisms and devices and access doon sa contraception, doon sa reproductive health law. Dapat lang naman. Of course, hindi lang naman pwedeng mamigay ka lang. Dapat may edukasyon din na gagawin dyan. Mayroon ding pagpalinaw ng mga bagay-bagay sa mamamayan kasi hindi naman simpleng namimigay ka lang dyan ng contraceptive devices. So, sa choice nila, gusto nila yan eh. So, iyan ang mga paraan dyan, ano? Pero alam nyo, ang populasyon, hindi yun ang main problem natin. Kasi ang bansa natin ang pakayaman. Kayang-kayang pakainin ang... ako nga, tingin ko, kahit lumaki pa ang population natin, kaya naman, basta tama lang ang pamamahalan ng gobyerno. Tama lang ang pag-distribute ng income at wealth. Wala lang korupsyon. May mga hanap buhay ang taong bayan. Buhos kapital ang gobyerno sa lokal na negosyo at industriya para maraming mga empresa at pagawaan sa buong bansa, may empleyo sila. Pero sasabihin nila ang ating gutom, ang ating kahirapan dahil sa population, I disagree with that. I really disagree with that because kayang-kaya nating pakainin ng ating populasyon kung maayos lang pamamahalan ng gobyerno.
Thank you. And last kay Attorney Diokno, ano pong tugon nyo dito sa tanong ni Rare Edu kung paano resolbahin ang problema sa malaking populasyon? 90 seconds po.
We need to ramp up our family planning and services that we provide, especially to our families who are marginalized in terms of their reproductive health. Kailangan natin ng itaas ang awareness at yung education. Nandiyan na yung batas at yung pagpapatupad na lang ang medyo nagkukulang. At the same time, I've noticed that if you look at our population data, 64% of our population are of working age between 15 to 64. So yung isang challenge sa ating pamahalaan ay paano ka tayo mag-create ng trabaho para sa kanila, especially under the pandemic. So aside from doing a lot of family planning, education and awareness, as well as providing the supplies needed for our families not to get too big, we also have to make sure that the present population, especially those of working age, are provided with enough jobs para hindi naman sila maging dependent din at they would be productive members of our society.
Thank you, Attorney Diokno. Let's move on to our next question from our netizen. Si VPC 53239, sabi niya ano daw kaya ang pwedeng gawin para matugunan ng pangangailangan ng mga senior citizens na tila napapabayaan na daw ng gobyerno pagdating sa mga benepisyo, lalo na ngayong pandemya. You have 90 seconds to answer. Let's start with Attorney Diokno.
Yes, actually, isa pang by this year, I believe our senior citizens will be around 10 million, more or less. And although meron na tayong batas dyan, yung Senior Citizens Act and the Expanded Senior Citizens Act, ay mayroon pa rin pagkukulang pagdating sa pagpapatupad niyan. At tingin ko, meron pa rin na tayong mailalagay na additional na benefits for our senior citizens. The other issue, I believe, is that because of the pandemic, they are very vulnerable to the COVID-19. So yung access at yung pagbibigay ng health services sa kanila ay talagang napakahalaga. In fact, we have to do something about our health services generally, not only for our seniors, but for everyone, but especially for those who are most vulnerable, which would include our seniors as well as those who are very young. Kaya yun ang mga gusto ko sanang i-push sa Senado po.
Okay, let's go to Ms. Gutoc. Ano po kayang pwedeng gawin para matugunan ang pangangailangan ng mga senior citizens, especially now in the pandemic?
Yung ayuda po kasi, yung subsidiya para sa kanila, well, going around the country again, sabi nila hindi readily accessible. So not everyone gets the same as, for example, in Manila, where you do have the ayuda regularly monthly, no, na 500. So itong ating mga Senior Citizens Act, the batas, yung batas nating senior citizens, it should be the Senate should act in its oversight to be able to urge all LGUs, local government units, especially in very vulnerable provinces, locations in NCR, na mabigyan, especially those with the needs, no, medical check-up for their medical needs. Ito po ay kailangan talagang i-access, and if we could tap into e-technology or the GCash system by which hindi nahihirapan ang ating mga senior citizen na kailangan pa natin ipapila para po i-pick up nila yung kanilang ayuda. Alam kong napaka-demanding, but we do have our social welfare workers who can deliver, but at the same time, we can also use already what's available technology-wise na pwedeng i-deposit, i-GCash na lang ng mga matatanda ang ating ang kanilang ayuda, no, cash subsidy. Secondly is to utilize their talent. Of course, many still want to work. They have talent. Their knowledge can be documented. Their learnings can be written down. Their narratives to teach, no, a new generation of social media young people who are not aware of traditions, the wisdom, no, of our elders. So I wish that the seniors can also be used, tap, no, and not the word. I don't like the word used. They can be harnessed so that their knowledge, kahit job order or contractual or kahit anuman na pwedeng allowance sa kanila, special allowance na pwede silang maging teacher or so-called consultant ng ating LGU or community centers para po hindi sila napapag-iwanan ng society.
Let's now go to Representative Neri. Ano pong pwede niyong gawin para matugunan ang pangangailangan ng mga senior citizens, lalo na ngayong may pandemya? 90 seconds, sir.
Una muna, ng congressman po ako, nag-author po ako ng bill na may special polling precincts ang ating mga senior citizens at PWD para hindi na sila aakyat sa 4th floor pagboboto sila. Pumasa po yun. Batas na po ngayon yun. Kaya COMELEC, please, i-implement yung batas na yun sa darating na halalan. Pangalawa, 2,000 dagdag sa SSS pension. Alam niyo naman ang nangyari doon. Ngayon, may bill ang bayan muna doon sa Kongreso na kung saan itong social pension. Sa ngayon kasi ang social pension, 500 pesos kada buwan. Pangalawa, ang daming cheche-boreche ng batas na yan. Ang daming mga senior citizen natin hindi nakasama dyan. Kesyo hindi ka naman frail, hindi ka naman sickly, kesyo may anak ka sa abroad. Kaya may bill kami dyan na tanggalin ang cheche-boreche, dagdagan 1,000 piso na social pension kada buwan sa lahat ng senior citizen sa buong Pilipinas. Pumasa na po yun sa House. At third reading pumasa na, nasa Senado na ngayon. And maganda ang tanong, I'm taking this opportunity sa Senado. Sana ipasa nyo na yung bill na pinasa ng House recently doon sa inyong kakamara. Kasi pag ma-approve ng Senado yung dagdag pensyon, 1,000 piso kada buwan sa lahat ng senior citizens sa buong Pilipinas, abay, ang maraming matutuwa niya kasi maging batas na yan eh. Sana naman hindi maging hadlang ang Senado para madagdagan ang pensyon ng mas maraming senior citizens natin sa buong bansa.
Thank you to our aspirants. And before we go to a break, here's a question answerable by yes or no. You don't have to explain your answer. You have 2 signboards. Use the green one if you agree or red if you don't. Itong question po na ito ay galing sa ating netizen this time, si Agbayani. So ang tanong niya, tatakbo pa po ba kayo kung walang pork barrel ang senator? Yes or no? Pork barrel is the PIDA for the Priority Development Assistance Fund. Every year up to 200 million pesos ang binibigay sa isang senador. So ang sagot po nila, hindi ko masyado makita sa monitor, tatakbo pa rin lahat. Yes, kahit walang pork barrel, tatakbo pa po rin po ang ating 3 aspirants. You're watching a CNN Philippines special presentation. We'll be taking a break. Stay with CNN Philippines. Welcome back to the CNN Philippines Senatorial Forum. This is the third in a series of forums where we get to know our senatorial aspirants. Former party list Representative Neri Colmenares, human rights lawyer Chel Diokno, and civic leader Samira Gutoc. Earlier, they answered questions on various issues concerning most Filipinos. Right now, we will be allowing them to ask questions to each other. This time, 2 minutes po ang ibibigay namin na para sagutin niyo ito. When you hear the sound, that means you only have 10 seconds left and you need to wrap up your answer. So right now you will be asking each other questions. No, I have a fishbowl here. So kayo po ay pipili, ako ay pipili for ladies first, Samira, para malaman kung sino yung una niyong tatanungin. Okay? So I will get the person na, sige, para malaman natin kung sino yung unang tatanungin and then we will just go around. Okay. Your question is for Neri Colmenares. Okay, Samira, you can ask Congressman Neri.
Neri, you're one of the most outstanding candidates of this election. How will you win with the, with the numerous logistical limitations? Getting tips from you.
Well, salamat,
2 minutes to
Samira.
answer. Okay.
Outstanding rin kayong dalawa ng mga kandidato this election. Alam niyo, mahirap talaga pag wala kang pondo sa eleksyon. 3 termino ako po sa Kongreso eh. Hindi ako nagpayaman dyan eh. Hindi ako nagnakaw dyan eh. Kaya talagang hindi naman ako mayamang-mayamang tao kahit na abogado ako. So ang hirap talaga dyan. Ngayon, ang isang malaking bagay para sa amin sa Makabayang Koalisyon, ang partido namin, isang partido politikal na ang mga miyembro ordinaryong tao. Yung manggagawa, yung magsasaka, yung takatak, yung nagtitinda ng juicy fruit dyan sa mga jeep, yun ang miyembro namin, hindi mga senador, mga kung sino-sino malalaking opisyal. Kaya sila mismo ang makakapagkampanya sa akin. We really are a people's organization and a mass political party. At pangalawa, ang mga miyembro namin, ito yung mga dedicated na mga campaigners. Hindi lang kami nagkaroon ng malaking base at napakaraming miyembro sa buong Pilipinas, kundi very dedicated sila. Grabe ang quality ng kanilang pangangampanya. Kahit nga walang makain yan minsan eh. So that's the second factor. Pangatlo, dito sa social media. Alam nyo, ang social media may malaking papel sa darating na halalan. Sa dami ng members namin sa buong bansa at sa dami naming mga chapters all over the country, ang Makabayan kasi composed of Bayan Muna, Gabriela, Anak Pawis, ACT Teachers Party List, Kabataan Party List. So, malaking bagay yon at sila ang makatulong dito sa social media bilang social media warriors para sa mga progresibong kandidato. And of course, syempre, sa poll watching. Alam mo, pagbantay ng boto, hindi yan biro, ha? Kailangan ng mga kandidato ng makinarya for that and kailangan ng malaking pera. Pero ang aming poll watchers sa Makabayan, hindi kailangan ng malaking gastos yan kasi ididepensa nila ang boto namin ano't ano pa man ang mangyari. Yan ang path to victory natin. Plus, of course, mamamayang Pilipino ang aking plataforma and of course ang track record ko bilang kandidato na ginagawa ang lahat ng paraan para sa interes ng sambayanang Pilipino. Salamat, Sam.
Congressman Neri, kayo naman po ang magtatanong kay Attorney Diokno.
Well, ang tanong ko kay Chel is, ano ang tingin mo na problema sa ating justice system sa kasalukuyan?
Hey, thank you for that question, Neri. Actually, yung unang problema ng ating justice system ay walang access ang mga ordinaryong mamamayan sa mga na masagot yung kanilang mga katanungan legal at sa tulong na legal. Anong April ng taon na ito, ako ay nagtayo ng isang free legal help desk sa aking Facebook page. At sa loob ng mga 6 na buwan, halos almost 20,000 ang pumasok na katanungan galing sa mga ordinaryong Pilipino. Doon ko na-realize na wala silang access sa free or low-cost legal assistance. Kaya ang gusto ko sana mangyari ay magkaroon tayo ng libreng serbisyong legal sa bawat baryo. Matatap natin ang legal profession, mga lawyers, mga law graduates. Marami tayong mga law graduates every year who take the bar exams. Matatap din natin ang mga legal aid clinics ng iba't ibang mga law schools para matulungan nila yung ating mga lupong tagapamayapa, yung mga barangay justice system, and at the same time, para makapag-consult ng libre ang mga taga-barangay. We really need to strengthen our barangay justice system dahil yan ang isang paraan para hindi na umabot sa korte yung mga kaso, yung mga away ng magkapitbahay o magkabarangay o magkasyudad. Doon pa lang ay magkasundo na sila. Ang problema ay kulang sila sa training, kulang sila sa support and even compensation. So kailangan balikan natin yung ating local government code pagdating dyan. The other problem we have is sobrang dami ang kaso sa ating courts. I propose that we have a court decongestion act. Yung mga kasong pera-pera lang ay ilipat natin sa arbitration tulad ng ginagawa sa construction industry para mabawasan din yung temptation for corruption in the courts at matugunan nila yung mga kaso ng ordinaryong mamamayan.
Thank you. And we now go to Attorney Diokno. You will ask a question to Ms. Gutoc. Go ahead.
Hi, Samira. Well, there could be so many crises that our country could face in the coming years. But what crisis do you fear the most, and what would you do to prepare for that if you are elected?
Economic recovery, Chel, of course, is something any one of us, probinsyano, sa syudad, talagang ramdam na ramdam eh. Sari-sari store, mall, pare-pareho, nag-close shop. Ang daming nag-close shop dito sa amin, sa Mindanao, grabe po eh. So in the coming years, I've talked to sidewalk, I've talked to kanina mga market vendors. Talaga pong kinatatakutan nila, wala nang mapapakain sa mga bata. So still poverty for me, it's about the economic recovery. It's about this crisis that we can't find, no? We can't find a source of income, and income, money defines many things. Of course, pinupush natin hindi lang naman financial, di ba? Ang problema ng ating kapwa Pilipino. Pero napakalaking bagay po ang pinansyal kasi especially from the poorest of the poor kami, lahat po yan to access education, to access Wi-Fi, to access everything else, medical care, and even confidence and dignity, kinakailangan talaga ng logistics So napakalaking bagay, Chel, is the financial economic recovery, which for me, pushing for internally displaced persons bill as a future sana na worker for our government ay nakikita ko po na when the government puts primacy on not just the dignity of human beings, to shelter, to their life, liberty, and property, to even their financial recovery, you're able to bring this COVID problem, loss of income of 2 years, back to some kind of startup confidence. Kahit man lang, sabi ko nga sa Marawi Siege Compensation Law, 10 pesos, hindi po, we're not saying that recover, refund us 10,000 pesos or much money. We're just saying that government, recognize nyo naman na nasira ang aming lahat, nawalan kami lahat. Helpless, hopeless, and homeless. So where do we start? There's no framework, there's no philosophy, there's no overarching government office that provides for the traumatized, that assists our women war victims. So napakalaking bagay po. Post-COVID, post-siege,
Okay.
post-typhoon is
Okay.
the economic recovery and a holistic recovery, of course, to include mental health, to include
Thank you,
family
ma'am. Okay.
support system.
Thank you. Thank you to our aspirants. And before we move on, let's read some comments online. Let's start with Larry Zabares. Sabi niya, ang gagawin naman daw nila ay puro kontra. Wala daw silang plataforma, kundi batapos lang ang kanilang termino. Sayang daw yung boto. He's referring to our aspirants, our 3 aspirants right now. Si Ronnie Valencia, sabi niya, no sa mga ito. Maraming buhay daw ng mga kabataan ang masisira dahil sa kanilang hidden agenda against the government. These were sent in to us. Ito naman from Facebook, sabi ni Susan Monsayak, pwede naman silang pakinggan bago magdesisyon. Dagdag niya, they look sensible at worth makinig sa sasabihin nila, not an outright no. Puntahan natin si Pichet Kapati. Sabi niya, they will be entertaining to watch. For a majority of qualified voters, this doesn't resonate because they've already made up their minds, regardless of the qualifications ng mga aspirants. Si Nika Marcelino, sabi niya, definitely voting for these 3. Yung mga guest daw natin ngayon. Doon tayo sa malilinis ang track record at walang bahid na personal na interes sa pagtakbo. Yung alam daw ang batas. And si Martin Magnoy, sabi niya, iboboto niya yung 3 aspirants na nandito ngayong gabi dahil sila raw ay quote pro-Filipino, human rights advocate, tapat sa serbisyo, and not a bully. So let me take off from our netizens' comments for our last question. Kayong 3 po ay di pinalad na manalong senador noong nagdaang eleksyon. Why are you presenting yourselves again when the Filipino votes in May? And what will be your priority legislation? Let's start with Congressman Neri Colmenares. You have 2 minutes to answer this question, sir.
Kailangan po na magkaroon ng isang makabayang senador din doon sa Senado. Marami kaming bill sa House na makamamamayan para sa mataas na sahod, laban sa kontraktualisasyon, halimbawa, na kailangan din ng counterpart doon sa Senado. Yung plataforma ko po ay sa makabayan, matagal na po namin pinaglalaban, may pandemya man o walang pandemya. Napakataas po ng cost ng medical needs ng ating mamamayan. Pag nagkasakit si lola, si nanay, si tatay, si anak, nako, ubos po lahat ng savings mo dyan. Kaya libreng gamot at libreng paggamot. Pag may karamdaman ka, libreng konsultasyon. Pag may reseta, ay libre ang gamot. Pag kailangan mo ng operasyon o medical procedure, basta certified as medically necessary ng isang doktor, libre din po yun. Ano yun? Appendicitis sa pinakasimple. O kaya dialysis, o kaya chemotherapy. O yung pinakamatindi. At may sabihin natin, medyo mahal dito sa Pilipinas, kahit kidney transplant, dapat libre yon. Pag may kidney transplant ka ngayon, mahirap ka, mamamatay na lang po kayo. Kaya yun po yun. Huwag nilang sabihin hindi pwedeng gawin yan. Maraming bansa ang gumawa na yan at may budget para dyan. I-cut lang nila ang pork barrel, i-cut lang nila ang pagnakaw, ang mga katulad ng family, may pwedeng tustusan ang libreng gamot at libreng paggamot. Pangalawa, ang track record po ni Neri Colmenares, siguro maipagyabang ko sa inyong, I can look you straight in the eyes at sabihin, ako, ang mga sinasabi kong plataforma, ipinaglaban ko ito, may eleksyon man o walang eleksyon. Ang plataforma namin na para tanggalin, ibasura ang kontraktualisasyon, libreng pamamahagi ng lupa sa magsasaka, accountability sa human rights violation. Matagal na namin pinaglalaban yon. Yun siguro ang pwede kong maipagmalaki. Si Neri Colmenares, matagal nang ninilbihan sa taong bayan, ituloy ang panilbihan sa Senado.
Thank you, Kong Neri. Ngayon naman po kay Attorney Diokno, sa pagtakbo niyo muli sa Senado, ano po ang inyong magiging priority legislation?
Well, unang-una, kailangan natin lagyan ng kagat ang hustisya at bigyan ng ngipin ang batas para ang mga dehado sa atin at napakaraming mga dehado sa atin ay maging llamado. Maliban doon sa mga nabanggit ko po kanina, yung libreng serbisyong legal sa bawat baryo at yung pagpapalakas ng barangay justice system, ay gusto ko rin isulong yung isang pandemic management law para maging science-based at evidence-driven yung pamamahala dito sa pandemya dahil marami tayong nakitang mga inhustisya ngayon. At anong ilalaman nitong pandemic management law? Well, we will have a body that will replace the IATF at dapat meron siyang private sector representation. Kailangan matap natin yung talagang marurunong pagdating sa kalusugan, yung marurunong pagdating sa siyensya at yung mga marurunong pagdating sa information technology. Kasi po sa ngayon ay talagang huling-huli tayo sa COVID resilience sa buong mundo at napakababa pa rin ang ating vaccination rate para mabuksan natin yung ating ekonomiya, para makapag-new normal na tayo at para makapagbalik eskwela ang ating mga kabataan, kailangan maitaas natin ang vaccination rate at kailangan maayos at science-based ang pag-manage natin sa pandemya. Yung isang naging problema din yung ang bagal-bagal ng pag-release ng mga benefits ng ating medical frontliners. Doon sa batas na gusto kong i-push ay dapat timely and early release ang ating benefits at pati yung issues sa parusa dahil ang lumalabas ay noong 2020 pa lang halos kalahating milyong Pilipino ang nakulong dahil sa pag-violate ng quarantine. Meron pa nga kami na monitor isang tatay na 37 days bago siya nakabalik sa kanyang pamilya. Dapat po, community service ang parusa sa ating mga quarantine violators at lahat ng mga angat buhay program ang dapat natin isusulong.
Let's now go to Samira as one of only a few aspirants from Mindanao. What will be your priority legislation? You have 2 minutes to answer.
Ang Pilipinas po ay top-notcher po sa krisis sa buong mundo. Top-notcher in typhoons, top-notcher in conflict, top-notcher even in COVID resiliency, napakababa po ang ating performance. Kaya nakikita po ni Samira na tumindig po sa mga puneraria COVID ward na kinakailangan po talaga ng sistematiko, science-based, research-based na responde sa crisis. And it's not just a National Disaster Risk Council, but a department, a holistic disaster response methodology, strategiya para po kasama rin ang community, ang private sector para sa kanilang technology investment, at ang ating gobyerno, trilateral approach. Hindi sana nagka-shock tayo kung meron tayong infectious na departamento, di ba po, o division para na pag-aralan po yung ating COVID. Di ba po, March na tayo nag-lockdown, December pinag-uusapan na sa China ang ating COVID. So naiintindihan ni Samira bilang produkto po ng disaster ng Marawi Siege ang importansya po ng preparasyon, ng crisis prevention at edukasyon kasama ang komunidad. We need our women to be part of our crisis force, our force multipliers. Kailangan po kasama sila sa planning, sa enforcement and evaluation. Our disaster risk response needs to be holistic, involving traditional approach, not just security forces, not just the defense, or even the frontliners na medical. Nakita na natin na home care remedy, home preparedness is as much a state is as equal as a state preparedness approach. Kaya Samira Gutoc ay nagsasalamat sa CNN po sa itong napakaunang the forum natin po. I'm very grateful for this chance because this is not maybe this is the first time for a Marawi female po to participate nationally in this very important 2022.
Thank you, Samira, and thank you to all our guests tonight. This has been a CNN Philippines special presentation. I'm Ruth Cabal. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week with another set of senatorial aspirants.